I don't actually like to do the I told you so moments here, but I told you so. Months ago, I told you guys that while everyone on the left and in the press was obsessed with right-wing violence, left-wing terrorists were beginning to rear their head. There is an organization called Jane's Revenge. It is not getting national media attention. Jane's Revenge has organized the firebombings of pregnancy centers around the country. Now, here's what you need to understand, because the media doesn't cover the issue accurately, because like guns, they don't understand it because they're in a bubble. There are pregnancy centers around the United States that do not perform abortions, and it infuriates the left that one of the options these centers do not provide is killing the child. Instead, what these pregnancy centers do is they help the mother who has decided to not have an abortion. They provide her with prenatal screenings. They provide her with vitamins. They provide her with necessary ultrasounds. They provide her with medicine. When the child is born, they provide the mother with parenting skills. Even before the child is born, they start that. And then they provide diapers. They provide cribs. They provide rocking chairs. They provide, and by the way, not the woman doesn't have to come there for the crib. They give the women cribs and diapers, rocking chairs to take home and use and keep. They walk with the pregnant mom. They provide the safety net for the pregnant mother. There is this idea that the left has perpetuated, that the media has embraced, that pro-lifers only care about the unborn baby, and once the baby is born, they no longer care. That's not true. And it's why these pregnancy centers don't get covered by the media, because it would expose the lie. I have helped a number of them raise money over the years. I've spoken at events for them. I do it without charge to them. I have done a number of events for them in Georgia and outside of Georgia, in the Atlanta area and outside of the Atlanta area, being keynote speakers, making phone calls for them, lending my voice to help them, lending my name for them to fundraise. And they come under regular and sustained harassment by the left. In fact, a couple of years ago, there was a left-wing political group that had a big conference in Atlanta, and they decided to show up and protest at some of these pregnancy centers for not performing abortion and for not directing the women to get abortions. It was kind of bizarre hatred towards a center that is actually helping mothers who want to keep their children keep their children. And again, the media doesn't cover these places. Many of them are tied to church organizations, not all of them, but most of them have Christian backing, and you just don't hear about it in the media. And they are now undergoing attacks from a terrorist group called Jane's Revenge. Let me read you the statement released yesterday from Jane's Revenge. You have seen that we are real and that we are not merely pushing empty words. As we said, we are not one group but many. You have seen us in Madison, Wisconsin, Fort Collins, Colorado, Reisterstown, Massachusetts, Olympia, Washington, Des Moines, Iowa, Linwood, Washington, Washington, D.C., Asheville, North Carolina, Buffalo, New York, Hollywood, Florida, Vancouver, Washington, Frederick, Maryland, Denton, Texas, Gresham, Oregon, Eugene, Oregon, Portland, Oregon, among others, and we work in countless locations invisibly. You've read the communiques from the various cells. You've seen the proliferating messages in graffiti and elsewhere, and you know that we are serious. We were unsurprised to see 30 days come and 30 days pass with no sign of consilience or even bare minimum self-reflection from you who impersonate healthcare providers in order to harm the vulnerable. History may not repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes, and we've already seen such stanzas where medical autonomy is stripped away, humanity is increasingly criminalized, and merely surviving becomes largely untenable. Sounds rather unhinged, does it not? Your 30 days expired yesterday. We offered an honorable way out. You could have walked away. Now the leash is off, and we will make it as hard as possible for your campaign of oppression to continue. We have demonstrated in the past month how easy and fun it is to attack. We are versatile, we are mercurial, and we answer to no one but ourselves. We promised to take increasingly drastic measures against oppressive infrastructures. Rest assured that we will, and those measures may not come in the form of something so easily cleaned up as fire and graffiti. Sometimes you will see what we do, and you will know that it is us. Sometimes you will think you merely are unlucky because you cannot see the ways which we interfere in your affairs. But your pointless attempts to control others and make life more difficult will not be met passively. Eventually, your insurance companies and your financial backers will realize you are a bad investment. From here forward, any anti-choice group who closes their doors and stops operating will no longer be a target. But until you do, it's open season, and we know where your operations are. The infrastructure of the enslavers will not survive. We will never stop, back down, slow down, or retreat. We did not want this, but it is upon us, and so we must deal with it proportionally. We exist in confluence and solidarity with others in the struggle for complete liberation. Our recourse now is to defend ourselves and to build robust, caring communities of mutual aid so that we may heal ourselves without the need of the medical industry or any other intermediary. Through attacking, we find joy, courage, and strip the veneer of impenetrability held by these violent institutions. And for the allies of ours who doubt the authenticity of the communiques in action, there is a way you can get irrefutable proof that these actions are real. Go do one of your own. You are already one of us. Everyone with the urge to paint, to burn, to cut, to jam, now is the time. Go forth and manifest the things you wish to see. Stay safe and practice your cursive, Jane's Revenge. If that sounds unhinged, it is. A crazy person wrote this, and probably a crazy person, not persons, and probably someone taking credit for other people's actions, and probably that person is tied to a handful of other trolls on the internet, but clearly unhinged, and this administration is doing nothing. Remember, it was Nicole Hannah-Jones who said destroying property which can be replaced is not violence. The left has embraced that idea that destroying property which can be replaced is not violence, and so they're okay burning these facilities down. They're okay vandalizing. And curiously enough, they believe that these are centers of oppression because they're giving pregnant moms free diapers, free ultrasounds, free pregnancy neonatal vitamins, free medicines, free cribs, free everything, and yet they're centers of oppression. The problem here is, as I've mentioned before, while the media and the left, while the Democrats, while Merrick Garland and Joe Biden focus on right-wing violence, there's actually a greater history of left-wing violence in this country. During the summer of 1970, there were 20 bombings a week in California. In 1971, the Weather Underground bombed the U.S. Capitol. Think about that. They're obsessed about what January 6ers did. The Weather Underground actually bombed the U.S. Capitol. In 1972, the Weather Underground bombed the Pentagon. In 1975, the Weather Underground bombed the State Department. Its members plotted the assassination of a California state senator in 1978. And that's only one. There were others, too. The Earth Liberation Front is engaged in multiple terrorist attacks in the country. They've burned down research facilities. They've destroyed property. They've engaged in other violence. In 2001, a federal report noted, quote, leftist extremists were responsible for 3/4 of the officially designated acts of terrorism in America in the 1980s. They tend to be younger and better educated than right-wing extremists, and they tend to live in urban areas, thereby making high population centers more target rich. And they have internalized a very biased worldview on the left. And they have internalized a bunch of talking points wherein this group, Jane's Revenge, can actually claim that by repealing Roe v. Wade or overruling it at the Supreme Court, humanity is being criminalized. And they can claim that these pro-life pregnancy centers that give away free diapers and free ultrasounds and free neonatal care to women are somehow enslaving women. They can claim these things, and the media is not giving them any attention. The media is not covering this. The media is barely mentioning any of this. Only on the right, only on Fox News is this getting coverage. This is the sort of intimidation the Ku Klux Klan did during Reconstruction. Firebombings, lynchings, vandalism. This is what the ELF has done, the Earth Liberation Front. This is what the Weather Underground has done. This is what the Black Panthers have done. This is what left-wing agitators do. And the media wants you to believe January 6th is all that matters. The media wants you to believe the rise of right-wing white supremacy terrorists are what matters here. They're not keeping their eye on the ball. They want you to believe it's all one, and in so doing, they ignore the other. The fact of the matter is both sides have extremists. But the left actually has a longer history in this country of enabling and emboldening its extremists. You had the Puerto Rican terrorist group shoot up the House of Representatives years ago, about 40 years ago. In fact, one of the organizers of that group, Barack Obama, pardoned. This is just American history, the history we don't talk about. It is overwhelmingly a violent history on the left, and they're getting violent again. I told you this was going to happen. First, it's the abortionists, and it's going to be the climate changers, too. They've already engaged in a series of terror attacks on railways, hauling oil. It's going to get worse, and it's going to get worse in large part because the Democrats won't hold their own side accountable. The Democrats won't make eye contact with it. The Democrats won't talk about it. The Democrats won't say anything about it. They won't prosecute it. The FBI is not investigating this. Merrick Garland is saying nothing. The White House is saying nothing. You had an attempted assassination on Brett Kavanaugh 2 weeks ago, or last week rather, and the President of the United States has not spoken publicly about it to condemn it. Merrick Garland has not spoken publicly about it to condemn it. And now you have a series of arson attacks on pregnancy centers around the country. And again, neither the president nor his attorney general nor any major Democrat in Washington has talked about it. To the extent anyone has, they're taking the position of you get what you deserve, which is just going to embolden this, make them more radical. And you know what's going to happen at some point? Some pro-lifer is going to have to defend his own life. And when the bad guy abortion activist who's trying to kill the pro-lifer dies in the process, the media will vilify the pro-lifer as clearly not pro-life by killing someone who is going to kill him. Of course, that's the way this is going to wind up. The media will turn it on the pro-lifers when, in fact, there is an organized terrorist organization running around this country right now, blowing up buildings and vandalizing places that are trying to help pregnant women. And the media, CBS, ABC, NBC, MSNBC, CNN, and the President of the United States and the Democrats in Congress are completely ignoring the story. You got to ask yourself, why is that?